repetition structures or loops in Swift are really no different from the repetition structures we see in other languages such as C# or Java. We have a fixed iterative for loop that's going to execute a certain number of times based on a counter being incremented or decremented. The only difference from C# or Java is that our counter declarations here do not occur inside parentheses. So I have a variable I that's being declared as equaling 0, and we're going to continue the loop as long as I is less than 10. Each time through the loop, we're going to increment I by 1. And you can see here from the execution that it executes 10 times. If I simply press the enter key, that'll execute it, and we'll see the console output. And I see it starts with 0 and it goes to 9. Once I go to 10, that's outside the conditional here, and the loop stops executing. I can also look at the value history and see the execution of the loop there as well. Let me paste in another example. This is a for in loop, much like the for each loop that we see in C# where we can iterate through a collection. So here I have a variable xyz, which is an array of strings. Aardvark, bear, cheetah, dingo, elephant, and fox are the values. And then my for loop for animal, which is going to take on the string, it's a string variable, in xyz. It's going to iterate through each item of xyz, and I'm going to print the item, which is the variable animal. And you can see here the output, aardvark, bear, cheetah, dingo, elephant, and fox. It's going to run 6 times. Let me get us a blank line in our output. And I'm going to do a slight variation of this. I can say for I, and I can do a range. Let's do 20 to 28. And here I will print the value of I each time through the loop. So you can see it goes through the iteration here of my range, 20 through 28. Here I'm going to use a variable that I'm going to call char. And I'm going to have a string. Let's take phrase South Mountain. And each character in a string is part of a character array. And I could then print line char. You can see here I'm going to get South space Mountain. Well, in addition to the fixed iterative loops, we have conditional loops, which consist of the while loop that we also see in other languages. Let me paste in an example of that. So this is a Boolean repetition. It's going to be evaluating some condition, and as long as that condition is true, the loop executes. Now the important thing to remember here is we must have some way of changing the value that's being evaluated in the condition, or else we get an endless loop. The only difference here from a while loop that we'd see in C# or Java is the condition is not inside parentheses. So I have two variables, a equals 1, b equals 2, and as long as a is less than 256, I'm going to print the value of a, and then I'm going to multiply a by the value of b, which in essence is going to double each time through. So if we look at the output here, we get a equals 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128. We would be in an endless loop. You see this running forever. Sometimes you'll get stuck in an endless loop, and so a little trick here is you can create a block comment So I've got a block comment here. I did not close the block, and if I were to comment out a times equals b, notice it's not executing. Things are grayed out as far as the execution because of this, but as soon as I were to close this, now it's going to execute, and you see it's running forever. So it's a little trick you can do. Sometimes if you want to keep something from executing while you're typing in the code, at the end just create a block comment. Don't finish the block until you're ready to execute it. Okay, I'm going to do a similar loop again. A equals 1, B equals 2. Let's get our blank print line in here. I'm going to come up and copy my repetition structure again. And we'll see it's executing 8 times. I'm going to add an if structure here. So I'm going to say if A equals B times 8. So in essence 16. In fact, let's just make it 16. If A equals 16, then I'm going to break. And we'll see the result of that with the break is it only executes 4 times. Once A equals 16, the while loop exits. So we can exit a loop using break. Let me copy this code and paste. This time, let's move our print line down here. Okay, you can see it's still executing 4 times. It's only going to print once because the last time through the loop, the print line is not being executed because it's breaking before that. And I'm multiplying my value before the print line, so it's starting at 2. But I need to have this execute so you can see the effect of this so it doesn't get stuck in a continuing loop here. I'm going to change break to continue. And let's look at the output now. The output is 248. Notice it skipped 16, 32, 64, 128, and 256. So what's happening here is the continue is causing this particular execution of the loop for that iteration to prematurely end, but then continue in the loop and go to the next value. So those are your basic loops in Swift.